Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 21st of April 2020, and these are the articles we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Indian Express and this is written by C. Rajmohan. It is titled The Drift to the Left. Now let me begin with a short story. So the pandemic begins in China, it rips through the capital cities of Europe, wipes out at least third of all human beings in its way. When it is all over, revolts begin, cherished institutions fall, and the entire economic system has to be reconfigured. Now, what am I talking about? No, it is not about COVID 19, but it is about a pandemic called Black Death. So, Black Death was a bubonic plague pandemic that caused the entire history of mankind in the 13th and 14th century to undergo a monumental shift in the way the society was configured. So, this bubonic plague pandemic started in Mongolia and eventually it spread to West Europe throughout the 14th century. But since the economy back then was based on a local agricultural lifestyle and crafts, ordinary life bounced back relatively quickly. But by radically reducing the number of workers, it gave the survivors increased bargaining power, which soon translated into new concepts of liberty among the population of medieval cities. So, all this in turn started a process of economic change that brought an end to the feudal system. And some capitalists argue that this is the trigger point for the rise of capitalism. Now, today, because of the SARS-CoV-2 virus and COVID-19, capitalism is seeing its nightmare. Today, capitalism faces its own plague nightmare. Though the COVID-19 virus may kill between 1% to 4% of those who catch it, it is about to have an impact on a much more complex economy than the one we see in 1340s when Black Death was prevalent. So, this is because we are living in a much more complicated geopolitical order and our society is already gripped under the fear of climate change issues. Now, if we take a look at some of the massive changes that the pandemic has already enforced, firstly, we are witnessing a partial shutdown or a complete shutdown of daily life in large parts of Asia, namely China, India, and most of Europe, various other states of United States of America. We are seeing a partial shutdown of our daily life. That is a significant change. Secondly, the damage to the reputation of the governments and political elites who have either denied the seriousness of the crisis or in the initial stages proved incapable of mobilizing their healthcare systems are questioned right now. The third point is there is an immediate slump in consumer spending across all major economies, which is certain to provoke the deepest recession in living memory. So we have share prices that are collapsing, and this in turn is hurting the middle class families in major economies where pension funds have to be invested in shares. Meanwhile, the solvency of airlines, airports, hotel chains is also in doubt. So, this is a virtual economic collapse of the developed world. Now, in response, we have various states have launched economic rescue packages so massive that people have not yet got their heads into the implications around this. For example, if you want to have a context, the US government will be injecting $2 trillion into the economy. When I say 2 trillions, it is greater than 50% of what it collects in taxes every year. So you have to understand the implication of this economic collapse. Meanwhile, even the central banks like RBI switched to a new and aggressive form of quantitative easing. Just as after the global financial crisis in 2008, they will create new money to buy government debt. But this time it is not going to be gradual, or it is not going to be focused on safest government bonds also. It is introduced as a panic measure in 2008, but now it seems like it is universal and quantitative easing could be with us for many decades from now. And at the same time, we have politicians who are busy reassuring voters that it will be a V-shaped recession. What do you understand by this V-shaped recession? So there will be a slump because of COVID-19 and there will be a sudden bounce back because the real economy they claim is sound. One more important trend is that in 1990, and from 1990s onwards there has been an increasing integration of Chinese trade with US. Now with Trump at the helm of affairs, as Trump ties China, globalism and Beijing's responsibility to the pandemic, probably we will see a reversal in this trend of dependence on China. After Xi Jinping became the chief of the Communist Party and the leader of China, there has been a departure from the Western imperative that China always maintains a low profile. He was not accepting that status and he went for aggressive promotion of Chinese image through his OBOR concept, or the One Belt One Road initiative, where he took over a lot of small countries and pushed them into literal coercion through his checkbook diplomacy. So the most important implication of this would be deglobalization. Deglobalization will be the next phase of international politics, where the focus on redressing the inequality and new political weight of the working class is likely to have a powerful and lasting impact on national economic strategies. So that is the gist of this article. The next article for the day is taken from the Hindu and it is titled "The Occasion to Revisit Sovereign's Role." So, when the management of the subcontinental lockdown has brought into focus the role of state governments, their uneven capacities and capabilities, and also their varying ability to raise revenue has been brought into question. So, there is a growing body of opinion that in the post-COVID world, most countries will see governments playing a larger role in shaping people's lives and determining their livelihoods as well. So the return of big government and the prospect of a potentially larger role for the state in the economy raises the question, certainly in India, what would it mean for the center-state relations and for national and provincial politics? Indeed, the central government will be at the center of all the decisions that will have an implication on the economic front. However, the immediate challenge of public health and medical care, as well as the continued supply of necessities, will remain the responsibility of the state governments. So, the manner in which the central and state governments resolve the problem of inadequate financial resources, given falling revenues due to slowdown and raising claims of the public exchequer, there will be a key issue in center-state relations. So we have several chief ministers who have been complaining about the center's lack of financial nerve and resolve in keeping the pace at which states are taking up initiatives. So we have various states like the chief minister of Telangana appealing to the prime minister to enforce certain form of quantitative easing as well. We also had Kerala finance minister Thomas Isaac, who called it crazy macroeconomics. So we are witnessing politics as well as a friction between the center and states. So there is definitely a need for the 15th Finance Commission, which has already been given an extension, to have a relook at our center and state relations with respect to financial resources. The most important question that we have to ask right now is, how do states ensure that their responsibilities are fulfilled? There are also certain elements which are crucial to our economy, like actually on the ground, it is the states who have to become partners in economic development. They have to lubricate the wheels of any demand that should revive in our economy after this COVID crisis. So unless and until we devolve certain important powers to the states, unless and until we see the spirit of federalism in its true meaning, we cannot revive demand in our economy. So the author of this article believes that this is an appropriate context to revisit the political economy of our country and also the center-state relations. The country should begin a vigorous discourse on redefining every aspect of its involvement in our states as well. The relationship between the state and the economy, its role in allocating resources, should also be debated. We have had a similar opportunity when the Venkatachalaya Commission submitted its report in 2002. We did not take any action back then with respect to these kind of situations, but We cannot afford to lose this COVID-19 opportunity to relook at our center and state relations. That is the gist of this article. That's it for the day. Thank you.